this, and we look at the water quality along with the water quantity, and as we think about our future and our future generations coming up, these are pretty important.
Very important.
And not only from from that aspect, but a dollar amount.
Absolutely.
And what, and I always hate to use the word taxes or different things but it's going to take money to fix, and it's expensive.
It is.
And so if we can help utilize already what's set in place and build off of that, we have a tremendous savings for better BMPs or more BMPs for the future generations to put in place and be more cost effective.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice when it can be voluntary, when people can see the value in their pocketbook for doing practices. And I think it's really hard to ask landowners to see a wetland on their property that could be productive acres to be set aside for the good of the whole. That's a tough ask.
It is.
And that was something that, I think we're still sort of reeling from, those changes that were made to federal law 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. That said, these are, it's actually looking at wetlands just like they are the lake, they are the stream. And those things, I don't think people have any question that, oh yeah, the St. Joe River, that doesn't belong to you or me just because I own some property on it. I understand that that's public, and I understand what the lake's public. But I think when we ask people to make that mental leap that wetland is also public, wait a minute, that's my land, and I've been paying taxes on that for a long time. So that's a big ask. And I think that in order to do that for folks, we have to have some way of understanding, well, what's the economic return on that? Why is that good for me? Well, that's going to keep our communities healthy, and there needs to be, it would be nice to have ways to, do what you call like payment for ecosystem services, where downstream communities are helping to offset the cost of storage upstream. That's the end goal, to where we do treat this as a big system and not, one county on its own against another county, and I'm uphill from you, so it doesn't hurt me to send my water to you, trying to think, and that's really what the River Basin Commission was created for, was to try and get people thinking as a system and not just as a particular county.
And that everybody's on an equal playing field, and we all have some meat in the game.
Yeah.
And take a vested interest in all of this, because it affects all of us.
Yeah. I think one of the things I want to mention that's pretty exciting is some work that we're doing with some of the county surveyors, and on the Michigan side of the line, the drainage officials are called drain commissioners. But we're actually taking this down to the individual property owner level. And when I say taking this down, this idea of creating an incentive to store water on your property. Many folks who live in rural areas pay the county for the management or maintenance of a county ditch or a county regulated drain. We've got all kinds of them here in Elkhart County. Elkhart County is actually a little unique in how they're funding things. But across the watershed, we're looking at the cost that a landowner pays for the maintenance or management on the ditch at this point across the basin is pretty much just based on how big your parcel is. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you're doing on it, how you're using it, whether it used to be a wetland or not. And we're working on using spatial data and looking at it in a computer, GIS is geographic. We're analyzing it and saying, and the state actually, the code gives us the guidance to say to do this, to look at these things to determine how much each property owner should pay. And we're able to create a financial incentive for folks to store water on their property by splitting up the bill based on how much water storage you got. And so if you've got wetlands on your property, or if you're doing ag BMPs, you don't pay as much for drain maintenance because you're not sending as much water or sending as much sediment. And that's another way we're trying to, create that incentive for storage on private property.
Mm-hmm. Well, I look at it, when you start talking incentive, and we put that together, that small program, and I look over the last 4 years that we've done this in 17, and I just figured up the 2020 totals, and when we start putting dollar amounts to those, that's when it starts opening up individuals' eyes, like, wow. And we've talked about that, on how that, it's hard to put a dollar amount on something you can't see. But I mean, from a visual, just over those 4 years, just with that simple program, and it's county run with county regulated dollars that have come in, has saved over 60,000 tons of sediment from going into our waterways. And when we look at the off the farm water benefit, I mean, from a county aspect, that's almost $300,000 worth of material. You know, like,
Seems like a good investment.
you know, and that's just the water quality coming. So, yeah, I mean, as we start working through this and starting to put some dollar amounts to these and try to show that return on investment, yeah, these natural little, you know, areas that we swamp, you know, cesspool, different things that are addressed in that are a huge benefit. And yeah, not only for our ecosystem, and, you know, for the deer flies that try to carry me off in the summer, but that's, yeah, and it's, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're outside in the county or, you know, in town. There's water resources that all help infiltrate that water and soak it all in. And that's, you know, that's been our big push, especially from the SWCE, is soaking that up. Figure out how to soak up those resources and hold them. So we're good.
I appreciate you giving me a
I'm
chance
glad
to
you're
talk
able to
about
stop
wetlands.
by. Yeah,
Right.
and chit chat about the importance of wetlands, especially on National Wetlands Day.
Yeah,
And like I said, we get the information out, and all we can do is educate
exactly.
and inform.
That's great, Jim. I really think as long as the more we can do to get people to recognize that those wetlands are part of your lake or stream. So if you value the river, or even if you don't value the river, maybe you don't like to fish. If you don't want the river coming in your front door,
Right.
those wetlands are a key piece of that.
And that's the biggest thing is, you know, that we don't want floating away.
Exactly.
And try to keep everything, you know, and we talk about that all the time. Try to take down the highs and bring up the lows and just make everything kind of even across the playing field on no matter what we're doing. And so that's keeping everything in that checks and balance.
I appreciate your work.
Yep. So I always have a visual with me, and we've been mentioning about this sponge or wetlands and how that. I do have water in my red soda cup, so
You can do a demonstration
I can
for us,
drink it
Jim?
as well.
You
But
gonna do a demonstration for us?
I can end with a demonstration. So this would be like the Boggo Creek, and it just running wild.
Exactly.
Like what Boggo means is wild, or I can pour it
Christiana Creek over here.
on my sponge. Look at that,
Nice.
soaking it all in. It's gonna take all my water. So there we go with a slow
Beautiful.
release. Thanks.
You bet.